Welcome back to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teeny Cadma of Bitten Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions of true crime. It's a new episode on every Cadmaniac Monday for 52 Mondays, 52 Crimes. So I hope you guys do enjoy my little series. And be sure to give feedback, comment, like, subscribe, you know, the usual, the works. This is YouTube. You can't be new to it. If you are, hi, just click the button wherever it is. But anyways, viewer discretion is always advised. So today's story is about someone thinking that they were living in the life of GTA without consequences, you know, like a really poor DLC patch. 56-year-old Vincent Jean was born in 1966 in Irvington, New Jersey, where he likes to apparently raise hell. So normally 40-year-olds would be entering a stage of their life of generativity, right? So they're like wanting to like train and be a mentor, a parent, whatever it is, right? But no. 41-year-old Vincent shows his bitter, sort of like very self-absorbed side of his personality is glowing. It was a beautiful day in Wayne, New Jersey on October 13th, 2007, and Vincent Jean dabbled in his road rage, right? And he admits later on that he actually intentionally rammed his 2004 Ford Ranger into a Honda motorcycle while the person was sitting on their motorcycle in the parking lot of Costco on Willowbrook Boulevard, like he thinks he's in Saints Row. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine going to Costco, sitting there, minding your business, and then someone, you know, whatever. But his defense attorney, and I apologize if I'm butchering the name, Balin Bydwin, was the one working on the complaint against Vincent. Initially, he wanted to plead like, no, not guilty, but eventually he admitted his guilt. And Judge Joseph Falcone, no, it is not Gotham's Falcone, but anyway, granted him a pretrial intervention, which would eventually lead to Vincent actually being charged with aggravated attempted assault with deadly weapon to the third degree. Deadly weapon being his car. He was sentenced to weekends in the county jail on June 12th of 2009 with a year on probation, which to me sounds like a strange sentencing. And, you know, it kind of sounds like mom and dad are angry with you and you can't do anything on the weekends anymore. It's like a punishment for a child or to a young adult who can only drink on the weekends, right? Like, no more fun. So county jail on the weekend, I don't know, I'm struggling to see it. So here's my thing. If he was to be rehabilitated on the weekends to ensure that he didn't repeat this ever again, how does a weekend at Bernie's County Jail contribute to the rehabilitation of this person's anger issues, right? Who just hits people with their car, right? So is a weekend going to teach him how to cope with these anger issues? Because it's not socially acceptable to hit people with your car, right? And there's potential consequences of those actions do not seem to be truly considered, right? Either someone can be seriously injured or dead, right? This can go horribly wrong. There's no like upside to it, right? I'm also confused because from my understanding, if there is a charge of an assault with a deadly weapon, that does result in serious injury? Which, you know, obviously it did, or risk of death, the charges and the penalties tend to be like, you know, like doubled, like, or doubly enhanced or whatever. So I started looking up vehicular assault, you know, and I found out that it is a serious charge, and vehicular, what's wrong with me? Assault charge, gauges the, basically the seriousness of the crime that's been done to the victim, right? If the defendant was sober and if the injury took place within like even 1,000 feet of a school property or at a school crossing in New Jersey, and to be considered guilty of assault by automobile, that's the checkoff list. You need either two of those three things. Now, if two of those three on the list are checked off without any of the other factors being applicable to the statute, that they are able to be punishable by up to a fine of $1,000 and prison for at least 6 months. So his charges were of the third degree with serious bodily injury, and he was driving aggressively towards the motorist. There's obviously proof. And judging from what I'm guessing, they were judging the seriousness of the bodily injury that occurred to the person, and which may, I guess, kind of explain maybe the sentencing that he received. Like, I mean, but it's a year on probation and weekends in jail. Like, I'm just confused. Like, it doesn't make any full sense to me, right? And it is understandable that a dispute could have like possibly set him off. But again, you hit someone with your car. But let's put all that to aside. Let's look at Vincent as a human being for now. So now we're going to fast forward, right? So April 21st, 2022, 8 a.m. Some people are just waking up. They're preparing for work and drinking some coffee to warm up. A little bit of rain in Elizabeth, New Jersey, you know. And some people even may get into a little chaos, you know, because they got bills to pay. They want to get outside. They're rushing to work, you know. Now we have Vincent Jean, now 56 years old, is driving his gray SUV and has a fender bender with 23-year-old female. So most people will want to exchange information, you know, to provide for their fender bender and have the insurance cover it and explain what happened. But instead, Vincent thought to himself, you know, how could I make this really go wrong? You know what? I'm going to take it to the next level. Vincent decides that as he's backing up Salem Avenue, which is how we got into the fender bender, which is a one-way street, right? He's doing it to avoid traffic at a light on Tuesday morning during rush hour. Now, as he's backing up, he hits her car at an intersection. Now, this is just minor, but apparently he was so upset and became uncooperative. He didn't want to cooperate with her, that she had to take out her phone. She's taking pictures of his car, him, the license plate. You know, it's for her insurances. Vincent was not having it. So he decides he wants to try to flee the scene, and because she's taking pictures and recording, he decides there's evidence. Fuck that noise. So he starts to pursue her with his car. Like she was a motorcyclist minding her business at a parking lot in Costco. Like, you know, it's crazy. So he's pursuing her in the car, and she's on foot now at this point because she's running, and she runs up a driveway. He's following her. She decides she wants to start cutting across the lawn. He's turning to go like chase after her. Isaac, a witness, right? He has his home camera. He's 8:30 a.m. now. It's 30 minutes later. Now, Vincent is pursuing this woman in the car while she's on foot. She slips, falls down. What does he do? He runs her over. Yeah. Seconds later, a school bus appears because, you know, that's lovely for kids to see early in the morning. That he had... Sorry, my alarm. They tried to use the bus to actually block him because they saw him actually running her over. And because he saw that he was blocked, he proceeds to back up over her again and then over again for three. He hit her 3 times. He ran over her 3 fucking times. Because, you know, that's obviously so much better than a fender bender. You know? Why stay in jail for like a weekend? You know? Why do that when you could just spend so much more of your life, right? But anyways, thank goodness that Isaac and his wife were there to tend to the victim, you know, and try to help out as much as possible, you know, after Vincent had fled the scene. And, you know, obviously, and thank God for the school bus driver who tried to assist her by utilizing the school bus to block him. But the victim, you know, she's suffering from multiple broken bones. She was in critical condition initially, and she just recently, a few days later, has now had 1 surgery and is now showing promise to surviving. Vincent Jean, at 56 years old, is now being charged with 1st-degree attempted murder, 2nd-degree aggravated assault, 3rd-degree aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 3rd-degree assault by auto, 3rd-degree leaving the scene of a motor vehicle accident with serious bodily injury, 3rd-degree endangering an injured victim, and 3rd-degree possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose. Yeah, he got all that. 13 years after his first incident of hitting someone with his car on a motorcycle. Anyone with additional information, obviously for the incident, should contact Elizabeth Police at 908-358-9675. It'll be on the screen. But let's fucking talk about this. Like, how did we get here? How did we get this moment? We're like, hi, my name's Vincent. You're probably wondering how I ended up here. Like, what the all right, let's start, right? So road rage is not technically a psychological thing, but psychologically speaking, it would actually be considered intermittent explosive disorder, according to recent studies, right? So these studies are suggesting that it tends to be young males or 56-year-old men losing their fucking mind who will exhibit road rage, right? So what are the triggers, right? The environment can trigger, like having crowded roads, that can kind of boost up their moment. And then physiologically speaking, according to the studies, they discovered that people with lower levels of serotonin are more susceptible to having these anger issues, which would explain because testosterone always exacerbates anything to the cocktail, right? Get it? That was, all right, whatever. There are psychological factors to consider, like, displaced anger. There's chronic stress, which have been linked to road rage. It was also discovered that people who feel road rage are more likely to misuse alcohol and drugs, right? So was he drinking? Is it because he has all these anger issues? What was he not coping with? Like, what the fuck? So counseling psychologist Jerry, I'm going to butcher his last name and I'm so sorry, Defenbacher of Colorado State University, conducted studies focusing on anger and the aggressive driving, right? And he commented that people who experience road rage in comparison to low-level angry drivers were more likely to engage in hostile, aggressive thinking, like insulting other drivers. The guys who are like, nah! Those dudes. And the same people who may even seek revenge, right? They will take higher risk while they're driving, like driving 10 to 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, or rapidly changing lanes, or tailgating, those assholes. Even driving into an intersection when the light is red. And if you made it this far in my video, I know you're thinking of someone. You're like, I know someone who fits those parameters. I know them. But let's go back on. These people are more likely to become angry faster. And this is outside of the car. This is just in their everyday life. They are more prone to becoming angry very quickly. And because of this, they're also more likely to have more car accidents and get tickets, which probably fuels their fire, right? Just gives them more of a reason to be angry. When someone's coping skills are like severely lacking and their anger is building up, it is bound to be a recipe for disaster. How does one cope with their anger, right? There are numerous methods to coping with it and other emotions, but the most important aspect is learning to cope with all of your emotions, right? So, like, what are your emotions? People want to, like, throw theories around that. Oh, it's a chick thing, right? Look at this. James Lang theory suggests that our emotions are physiological, right? Like the high doses of oxytocin, the love bug, or the low levels of serotonin, right? The Cannon-Barth theory suggests that it's a trigger of events. And quite frankly, a trigger of events could be someone's childhood, right? Then there's also the two-factor theory, right? Kind of blends the two together. It acknowledges cognitive processing as well as the physiological state that a person is in at the moment when something is occurring, right? Is it possible to apply Lang's theory to Vincent? Sure, maybe. Maybe Vincent does have dangerously low levels of serotonin and high doses of testosterone, and that's why he's losing his fucking mind. Maybe he was already on his 12th crappy month and he snapped. Was it both? Regardless of your opinion, the aspect that I concern myself with the most are that the people around him recognized something was up, right? And did they try to intervene? Small, simple gestures could have saved 2 lives from encountering each other the way that they did this week. So when it comes to anger, there are actually 3 types of anger, right? There's the inward, the outward, and the passive, right? Inward is obviously the anger focuses on themselves. Outward is misdirected, aimed at someone else, right? Passive are the people who are like angry sarcasm, the silent treatment, the whole 9 yards, right? There are common signs to recognize if someone is struggling with anger issues, like hurting other people, whether it's verbally or physically, right? Their mood is like, it just seems like every time you look at them, their mood is just set to angry. You're like, is there anything normal? You're like, this is the normal of setting on the dryer, that kind of thing. Their anger will often feel to them like it's out of control. They may even regret some of the things that they've done while they were angry, which might explain why when he got caught or picked up, rather, he was sitting in a parking lot not too far from the crime scene, right? They'll also be angry about like small things, like a fender bender. They require basically less ticks than Katie Kaboom. It's these things, things that someone can do to manage their anger. They need to work on it, right? You got to use your noggin, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, Bailey, I can help myself. People got to give themselves a moment to calm down and try to find a way to express themselves completely, right? You got to identify what is making you angry. Why am I angry? Now, angry people have a bad habit of shifting the blame to someone else, but the truth is you need to acknowledge and take accountability. If you say something like, I am upset that you left the house without telling me or inviting me to go with you. sounds a little bit more communicative than going, you never do blah, 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 blah. Doesn't work, right? So when you look at someone like Vincent, what he did is absolutely atrocious. It is unacceptable. It is immoral. It is just wrong to do, right? When you try to go to fix the problem, how do you fix it, right? I'm trying to go back to the source. And if someone sits there and tries to figure out how to cope and work with their emotions, if we learn to teach people this at the beginning, like if they just did, psychological first aid in like middle school and high school classes and stuff, and, just throwing ideas out there. Those things may actually help people to, one, recognize, hey, Vincent's not looking so great. Vincent is losing his fucking mind. Vincent is doing this. How can I communicate with him to help him alleviate what it is that he's obviously not coping with? There are a lot of things he could be not coping with, right? He could be having a personal issue. He could have been something he's been brewing on since he was a kid. Something could have happened to him around the age of 40, 41, which may explain how he didn't really have any other arrest record until that year of 2007 in October. What happened to Vincent? What happened that started those changes? Is this like the Cannon bar theory where there were trigger events that led to that kind of thing? Is it physiological where he does have serotonin levels that are low? And why didn't he find healthy ways to cope with it? Now, I know I just gave you a couple of different ways to cope with your anger, but there are a number of ways, right? You can get a new hobby. You can continue a hobby that you currently enjoy. And sometimes your current hobbies may not find a way to get it out of your system. I tell people all the time, you should try drawing. You don't have to be perfect because the art is for you. You can do journaling. It doesn't matter what you write. You don't need to read it again. You just let it out of your system and burn the book afterwards. In fact, actually, I see this a lot. It's called a grievance journal. I would recommend it for people so they can get it out of their system. Write on a piece of paper, burn the piece of paper, do kung fu, sing a song, find a way to pull yourself out of that mode. You know what I mean? Because if that's where your dryer setting is set to and only, and it is always on, there's going to be a moment of catastrophe, right? It may not be like newsworthy catastrophe, but there's always something tragic going to happen to it, even if it's just you by yourself and you're unhappy. I think it's really important for people to find ways to cope with their anger. You can work out. Working out is good, right? Because happy hormones are our friend, right? And, working out, right? It produces happy hormones, right? Especially I think would be really beneficial for someone who may have physiological needs where their serotonin levels are incredibly low and they have an incredible, just saying, throwing ideas out there. There's so much out there. And when you're that pent up and angry, you're not finding a way to cope with your situation, you're going to do something stupid. It's just it's inevitable. So I'll share a personal story. There's this, a guy that I was dating very, very, very briefly. It was kind of like dating. I don't know. It's a weird little situation to describe. They had lied about a couple of things, as usually men do. And then I was like, this isn't going to work. But one of the issues that we had was his anger issues. Now, he never directed his anger at me initially. But one of the issues that I had was that we were actually walking. We were walking towards a bus stop. And he had a bad habit of wanting to puff out his chest and get in people's way. I would also see him do this if I was sitting in a cafe, because I would watch these sort of things what are you doing? I am actually watching you puff up and then intentionally get in people's way because you want someone to pick a fight with you, right? So one of the things that he did is we were walking to the bus stop, and then he proceeded to get in the way of a biker. Now, I've been a biker, and, I'm very quite accustomed to that sort of thing, and I hate it when people would do those things to bikers just on purpose, for what? And the biker barely just missed him, and he wanted to make it seem it's fun. He's I guess he thought he was showing his, machismo, but he wasn't. And I immediately circled in on the fact, why did you do that? And he couldn't answer me. He's this fucking guy, he's trying to make it into something, and I'm like, no, but really, why did you do that? What was the purpose of putting yourself, I watched you walk in the way of the bike, intentionally kind of egging him on to hit you? One or two things could have gone wrong. either you could have gotten severely injured because bikes move fucking fast, right? Or he could have gotten injured for what? Because you're having a bad day, because you're pissed off because life isn't the way that you want it to be, because you failed at this or you did that. Welcome to the fucking club, you know? And he could not answer. He could not explain why he had did that. To him, it was just like, well, man. And I was just like, right. That's going to be a fucking issue, and I can't have you doing that. And then the other thing to take into consideration, I said, what if that person fell and they were carrying a gun to solve the problem? I'm not going to get shot for you. I will let you get your ass beat out here in the street. Like, I'll call 911. I'll do it. I'll let them know, like, hey, he needs an ambulance. Yeah, he was being fucking stupid. You know what I mean? But, like, why would you antagonize another person and put yourself at risk, this other person at risk, and then I'm walking with you, bro? Like, you put me at risk. You ain't doing that shit around me. We're not fucking having that. And, you know, he went to, like, you know, like, later on, like, apologize, but he was mad because I put him in his place about it. I'm like, no, but really, answer the question. Why would you put that risk? And let's say this was a world where this was like, you know, guns and blazers, you know, cops and robbers kind of thing, and everyone's got a gun and everyone's got a piece. You know, and this person is concealing their weapon. Why would you risk it? If you're going to be that selfish, think about it on a selfish perspective of why would you risk it? Why? I was like, you're not capable of fighting. I already know you can't fucking fight for shit. I know this. If there's going to be fighting, I'd have to defend us. And I'm not willing to do it. No. I watched you antagonize this person, a complete stranger, for no reason. I was like, I've also watched you do it over here. I've watched you do it over here. Explain to me why. Couldn't answer the question. Later on, he went to, like, talk about, like, things in life that he was, like, actually angry about. And I'm like, that's fine and dandy. Anger is a natural emotion. You're supposed to feel anger. That's okay. But to be consistently angry and not willing to let go of things and just sit there and just, like, like, sitting in it. What the fuck are you doing? Then after that, he just became more of, like, I guess of a subject, rather, for me to study. And for me to see if I could help another individual. Because to me, I just saw, like, I was like, if someone doesn't help him or try to help him, he's going to end up in the fucking news. And sometimes when I see, like, these crazy cases where someone has road rage or they're doing something stupid, I low-key expect it to be him. And I'm like, oh, it's probably so-and-so. And it's sad that I can have that perspective, but that's who he is. And eventually he did actually focus his anger towards me afterwards. Because he had dropped me overnight, and I was like, all right, cool. Not an overnight. I was saying like 5 minutes after something. And I was like, all right, cool. You're going to be that guy? We can just end it right there. I didn't need him, and he couldn't process that. So that was another thing that just added into his anger. And then he began to direct his anger towards me. And then I shut that shit down real quickly because this is a true crime story. Anyway, but in that regard, like, even just observing him and me trying to help him, I hope in some kind of way I was able to teach him something of, don't fucking do that. Don't attack another person because you are angry. Go get therapy. Go figure out a way to make yourself feel better. And the only way that he ever found his way to, like, feel better was drowning himself in alcohol and drugs. I mean, that's all he fucking cared about. And it was, like, sad to, like, watch another person do this. And I've seen more than one person do this. Even when I look at people in the street, it's the same thing. And I wonder, like, when I look at Vincent Jean, was there someone trying to intervene? Was there ever someone trying to, like, help him and say, hey, bro, you gotta let go of your anger? I think it's so important for people to comprehend and learn how to cope and manage their emotions so that they can handle things better, so they're more equipped to handling life. Yeah, I know life is not fucking fair. I know we got a bunch of crazy shit going on in the country, left and right. I know. But if you equip people with the correct tools, they will manage it a lot better, which is why I'm still petitioning for my idea that I think psychological first aid should be taught from middle school and repeatedly taught in every fucking year. And, you know, intro to psychology all the way up into high school. Teach people to recognize certain factors. I think that's very, very important. Maybe the situation could have turned out a little bit better if we were teaching these things to people from a younger age, and they would know how to cope with themselves, or at least know when to seek help. But yeah, I'm just kind of going on a tangent. But yes, if you are someone that you feel like you're angry all the time, seek the help. Please seek it, before you harm yourself or anyone else or both. Thank you so much for tuning in. For 52 lockup, 52 weeks and 52 crimes. Hope you guys enjoyed. Give me some feedback. If I'm ever talking too fast, just let me know. Sometimes I go into New York warp speed and I forget that I talk too fast. And even when I'm editing my videos, I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand it. It sounds good to me. So yeah. But yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in and see you guys next week. Bye.